I'm going to get started because we do have a ton to cover, which I'm so excited about. And hopefully, you're in here tonight because you want to hear more about vibrational essences for women's health. If not, well, I'm sorry to say you'll be hearing about women's health tonight. And when I talk about vibrational essences, it's really key to mention the fact that they are also flower essences. So perhaps you've used Dr. Bach's essences. That's normally what we think of when we think about flower essences, but I use the term vibrational essences, and I started doing that maybe a year ago, just to include things like gem essences, which are such a phenomenal addition to the essence repertory, mostly because gem essences are so grounding. So they can be so helpful for any type of custom blend. So I almost always add a gem essence into them. So I'll be mentioning a couple specific ones that we used when it comes to women's health. And so tonight we're obviously talking about vibrational essences. We'll be talking about 20 specific essences for various women's health issues. So these are the kind of main categories that we'll be covering: stress and anxiety. We'll be talking about having more energy. We'll be talking about confidence and self-esteem. And we'll also be talking about hormones. So a lot of people think that essences can only be used for physical or mental and emotional issues, but I've had a lot of experience with specific clients just on using essences for physical issues. So I will be talking about a couple of those as they relate to women's health. And then the fun part, which is that each one of these sections, so each one of the sections that I mentioned, stress and anxiety, confidence and self-esteem, energy, and hormones, are all going to be accompanied by a specific custom blend that I created based on the essence. And you will receive those, you'll receive the frequencies of these energies as part of the healing experience tonight, which is so fun. Sorry, here we go. You can tell what a good multitasker I am. But each one of the sections is going to have a bit of a healing experience attached to it. So that is super exciting. Okay, I'm just going to give it another minute, just as people wander in. Or I'll continue. That's good too. So it's super fun, and you don't need to do anything except decide that you want to receive these frequencies. So you can have all kinds of stuff come up. And the first time that I experienced this myself was mind blowing. So I never thought of doing it this way in terms of the healing experience, but so you'll get a little bit of a taste of that today. And so this is a short form version of who I am. That's a picture of me in my garden. And as you can see, I grew a ton of tomatoes last year. And in fact, I am still eating the tomatoes from summer's garden. So it was very prolific. And I'm a registered holistic nutritionist. I've been working online and in person since 2013. So I'm just about to celebrate my 10th anniversary in May, which is very exciting. And in addition to being an RHN, I'm also a flower essence practitioner, and I've been using flower essences for over 10 years. And something's really cool is that I actually first learned about flower essences from my dad's medical doctor. So this was obviously 15-ish years ago, and he actually recommended specific flower essences for mental and emotional health for my dad. And this was around the time that he was being diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. So it's pretty amazing to me that an allopathic practitioner, and he was a super old school doctor, he was probably in his 70s by that point. I think he retired maybe a year or two after my dad saw him. And really, he was getting to see a family doctor just so we could start that process of diagnosis. But it's pretty amazing to me that he had this list of what you would call pretty holistic therapies on his list of possible treatments for mental health issues. So it's pretty amazing to me that I found my way through here, not through any of the traditional means or not through any of the classic ways that we might come to know this type of holistic therapy, but through an allopathic practitioner. So kind of love that story. And I'm also the founder of Inner Plant Wisdom, where we craft high vibe vibrational essences for people, pets, and plants. And that's the awesome thing, is that the same essence that you use with your husband or your kid or your best friend, you can also use it with your pet, and you can also use it in the garden. So I've been experimenting a lot with using essences in the garden as well. So here are a couple of reasons why you might want to use flower and other vibrational essences. They are obviously all natural and safe for all ages. They are simple, but they have pretty sophisticated effects. So it's kind of the question of, what do they do? Well, they do a lot of things. And some of the effects are really subtle, and then other times the effects just like hit you like a ton of bricks. And it's pretty amazing to me that something that doesn't contain any physical matter in it can have these profound impacts, but it's really all about the energy body. So one of the other amazing things is that vibrational essences, there's so many different ways to use them. And the traditional way that Dr. Bach talked about was using them orally, and you can also use them topically, so for specific health conditions or skin conditions. And you can also use them in the same room as someone needing support. So think of hospice care or end of life care. Flower essences are amazing because, of course, they don't have any herbal contraindications. They don't have any physical plant matter in them. And so they can be used in virtually any setting. So even just spraying them or misting them in the room with someone that needs support is also amazing for kids and other kind of young people who might not be on a regular schedule of actually being able to use them orally. And one of the other reasons being that the oral remedies that you would typically get from a natural health food store, for example, are usually preserved with brandy. So some parents may wish to avoid that with their kids. And so being able to spray them in the room, it's an amazing way to still get the benefits while also not having to worry about any alcohol amounts, even though the amount of alcohol is really minimal. And most people argue that it's less than, a very ripe banana or kombucha, both of which would be pretty safe for most children. And so how vibrational essences work, and there's so much science behind this. And one of the ways that I like to think about that is really based on nervous system repair. So really from a scientific framework, we can start to talk about flower essences in that way. But this is kind of a simplified version of it, but it's really cool to think that every flower, every plant, every animal, and every gem has different specific healing frequencies. And so these frequencies, which at some point, hopefully they'll be able to measure, because this is something I'm actively very interested in, specifically when you're looking at flowers and trying to figure out which chakra they work with, it'd be cool to be able to measure them. So far, I haven't found a tool or equipment that will do that, but if anybody knows of one, I'm on the lookout. And so each one of these flowers, plants, animals, gems has specific frequencies, and these are going to resonate with the body. And really the whole point of it is self-healing. So it's encouraging the body to actually self-regulate and rebalance itself. And then once the body is able to rebalance itself, it encourages the body to return to whatever its version is of optimal physical, mental, emotional, and or spiritual health. And so when we're thinking about using vibrational essences in this way, it's really important to remember that most, if not all, mental and emotional issues are underpinning physical pathology. So in the case where someone feels like, I get into accidents all the time. I'm always falling, or I'm always being injured in some way. Maybe, a good example is like when I was younger, I would always burn myself. So taking something out of the oven, cooking something on the frying pan, I was always burning myself. This could be just because I'm an Aries and very headstrong, but so if you have a type of physical injury that's coming up on a regular basis like that, chances are there's mental and emotional and even spiritual issues that might underpin it. And so when we start to address some of those mental and emotional issues, the physical pathology really just disappears. It has no choice because it's essentially resolved. So this is a neat way to start thinking about, well, what do these remedies do? And it's the frequencies themselves that can act in a healing way. And so our first unit is on stress and anxiety, which, again, if we're thinking about health issues, stress and anxiety really underpin every chronic health condition and also many acute health conditions. but specifically chronic ones. So white chestnut is the first one that we're going to chat about. And in most cases, I mentioned if it was a Bach remedy or not. And I mostly do this just because then you know, okay, I can buy this one at a health food store. Most of the time, Bach remedies are sold there. And not all of them, though, obviously, but many of the Bach remedies are. So this is a classic one for repetitive or anxious thoughts. And it enables us to find inner peace, relaxation, and tranquility in our thoughts. And it can be very, very helpful when we're feeling anxious or we can't sleep. And this is a common one in a blend that the Bach Foundation actually puts together on sleep. So they have a specific one called Rescue Sleep. And so white chestnut is in there, and I pretty much recommend it to every single one of my clients who has any issues around insomnia or later on in life when we're dealing with issues of hot flashes and other sleep disorders can be so helpful. So white chestnut is one to consider for this general topic of stress and anxiety. And so impatience is another amazing essence, and the hint to what it helps with is really in its name, but it's for those who feel impatient, who are anxious or nervous that things are moving too slowly. So it encourages the person to have a bit more patience in their life. And in doing so, it also enables them to live in the moment and to go with the natural flow. And so there are other essences as well that can kind of help us slow down and really settle in and just be present in our bodies. But impatience, definitely one of the kind of standard ones that we would recommend as part of dealing with issues around stress and anxiety. So our third stress and anxiety remedy is elm, and another Bach remedy, and also the hint to what it helps with is in its name, which is wonderful. I like it when the plant gods really are smiling on us, so that it can be a lot easier to remember what some of these are used for. So elm is for people who feel overwhelmed by their personal or professional responsibilities, and it helps us handle hectic days and find balance with our priorities. So it helps remind us that not everything on our to-do list is going to get done, especially if you're a parent or a caregiver or someone else who's dealing with competing responsibilities in their life. And so elm can help us kind of sort through with the things that are urgent and must do, and the things that maybe can wait a couple more days, or even better, if you have someone that you can hand those tasks off to. that is always the goal, right? Make our lives a little bit less stressful. And so this one you may have heard of. This one's called Star of Bethlehem, and this picture is actually from my garden. And ironically, this flower, which I'd never seen in person before, even though it's native local to our area, it just suddenly popped up in my garden. And it was actually during a time last spring when I was dealing with a really sudden and kind of traumatic health issue that just came up. And suddenly this flower was in my garden, and it reminded me, of course, that this is one of the go-to remedies for any kind of shock or grief or stress that you might be experiencing. And again, it's one of the key ingredients in rescue remedies. So perhaps if you've used flower essences in the past, that's probably one that you may have seen. And this is a Bach remedy, as I mentioned, and specifically for comfort and care after stressful or traumatic events. And this essence can actually help us process the emotional issues around these traumatic experiences. And there's no time limit. That's one of the amazing things about this particular essence, is that there's no time frame. So it's not necessarily things that have happened recently, short-term type of trauma or emotions. Say someone got into a car accident, and that's obviously a more recent experience, or someone who gave birth 25 years ago and had a traumatic experience. So this is an amazing one, and you can use it as part of rescue remedy, or you can just use it singly on its own. But it's amazing essence for all types of trauma and stressful events. So definitely, if you've used rescue remedy, this is probably one that you have experienced and maybe not even known it. And so skullcap is another cool essence, and another one that you may find in the gardens here and there where you live. And so as a vibrational essence, and sometimes the really interesting thing too, you may notice if you have any kind of knowledge or awareness around different types of herbs, you may find that the herbal indications are also similar to the vibrational indications. So how we use it as a vibrational essence and how we use it as a herbal product often coincide. So not necessarily, a specific one in this case, but I do want to mention that because sometimes with things like chamomile essence, which is another one that's great for stress and anxiety, people are often surprised that it has some similar indications as what you might use it for in herbal practice. So it is an easier way to sometimes remember what some of these essences do. So skull cap as a vibrational essence is for any times where we feel alone. If we're feeling kind of antisocial, we don't want to be around people, and we're out of touch with ourselves or with others. And skull cap as an essence can help increase our sensitivity, allow us to engage in better self-care and a greater moment-to-moment awareness. And this is specifically around the idea of shock and trauma. And so David Dalton, who is an amazing practitioner of decades and decades of experience, and he makes a lot of essences in his area that are the same as essences that we might make locally in our area. Locally, if you're in the Ontario area, very broad region. But he says that skull cap provides a kind of bridge back to the treasure chest of one's truer nature. And so he has a lot of materia medica and knowledge based on this type of sometimes esoteric, kind of knowledge. So I do find it really interesting because this is another great one for self-confidence and self-esteem as well. A lot of these essences are not necessarily just in one category. So I've kind of grouped them into a category just for the purposes of tonight, but there are many essences that can easily go between various different topics. So this one I would throw into the confidence area. Red clover, if I could tell you how much I love red clover, for the longest time, and even still today, anybody that does their first order on my website, I almost always gift them with a bottle of red clover because I just love it so much. It is so powerful. I have a client who actually calls it like the women's empowerment essence. So that's one way of thinking of it. And it is tremendous for self-care. It is so deeply restorative and rejuvenating. I don't know anybody that doesn't take it and immediately feel just this sense of calm and relaxation and real grounding in the body. And it's known traditionally to help with fear, chaos, and uncertainty, and also the idea of like mass panic and mass hysteria. So many practitioners were actually recommending it during the early days of the pandemic. And so when there was really a much greater sense of uncertainty about what was to come. And so red clover would traditionally be used in a situation like that. But for my purposes, I love it from the perspective that self-care is always self-love. And this essence in particular actually offers support from our female ancestors. So these are the ancestors that we're tending to the wounded during great battles. And so sometimes our modern day life can also feel like we are in a bit of a battle, just with all of our priorities and lack of time and the stress that seems to accumulate when we're engaged in aspects of daily life. So that is our last one for stress and anxiety. And so here's the fun part, because we're going to experience this one for the first time. And I've prepared a little blend of all these essences together, and I potentized them. So they're at quite a high potency. So all you need to do if you want to receive, and these are all the frequencies from that particular section. So if you're open to receiving these, I always recommend closing your eyes if it feels comfortable to you. And you're welcome to take a deep breath and settle into your body. And a couple more deep breaths. I'm going to share this with you. And so one thing I want to mention as well, with essences, it's really cool to think about these as having a consciousness and a real awareness. I know you might think that these are not really alive, but frequencies are alive, and especially when they come from Mother Nature. how could they be anything but alive? But one thing I didn't think about is that essences, for a lot of the time, we're just kind of sitting around and we're not really engaged with them unless we're using them. So I love to wake them up. And so this is a practice I started doing maybe a month ago when I saw someone else doing it. So I'm just going to kind of reawaken the frequencies that are in this. And so it is activated. And so you're welcome to receive the frequencies, which I'm going to share with you. I could feel the immediate just change in the energy. And feel free to close your eyes because sometimes things can come up and you can experience them as these energies are coming toward you. I'm definitely going to sleep like a baby tonight. So I feel like this is probably a blend that most people can't get enough of. So you're welcome to just experience those frequencies. This is a new practice that I started doing. I had been doing things in a very different way, and I just love the simplicity and the power that you can experience by being open to receiving these. So hopefully, if you had any stress from the day, that has helped you kind of settle in and be grounded. And we're going to move on to our next category. And so, I mean, the reality is that when we're feeling any kind of stress or anxiety, especially when it's chronic or long term, oftentimes there is a decrease in energy, which of course makes sense. If we're living in fight or flight for too long, over time we're going to suppress our adrenals, and it's going to take even more effort and really a lot of extra energy just to get them kind of kicked up and moving. So I want to mention 4 different essences that I love for boosting your energy. And I can tell you that olive is one of my favorites. And this is a Bach remedy. It is for those who are physically, mentally, or emotionally exhausted. I'm sure all of us have been at that point at some point. And it's really for someone who finds himself at the end of their rope. And you may have heard this quote before, but Franklin Roosevelt actually said, when you're at the end of your rope, tie a knot and hang on. And during the years where I was a caregiver for my dad, I definitely felt like that was that was my modus operandi, because when you're caring for anyone, you realize that self-care is obviously needs to be at the top of the list, but at the same time, you can't afford to just let the rope go. So olive is an amazing one if you or someone you know feels like they're at the end of the rope. And this is in turn going to give you extra energy because it helps us feel well supported and well nourished. And another amazing Bach remedy, which I was using all of last week when my little guy was not sleeping so great. This is also great if your kids are dealing with any kind of illness and you're also not getting the sleep that you need. Oak is an energizer. Just think about how mighty the little acorn is to grow into this fabulous tree. And so oak is, again, for people who are physically, mentally, or emotionally exhausted, and specifically when it's from chronic stress. And so the people who can benefit most from oak are people who tend to be excessively stubborn, check, ambitious, check, self-sacrificing, check, strong-willed, check, check, check. So this is one of the reasons why it works so well for me. If you know someone who has any of those categories, maybe oak would be helpful for them too. And oak essence, in giving us the energy and really kind of soothing some of that overexhaustion, and helps us avoid the temptation to take on too much duty or responsibility, which is kind of part of the process of the oak personality of taking on more and more and more until they simply just can't and they end up sacrificing themselves. So oak can be great as an energizer. And another amazing essence, another one that has a special place in my heart, it was one of the big essences that I used after my dad died, because when your whole life for a good amount of years had been dedicated to caregiving, you just realize like, oh, I suddenly have lost my sense of purpose and I lost my sense of center. So this is one that I use to just get up and go and to get moving again. And so this is a traditionally one that is known for motivation. It helps us conquer procrastination. So that's that Monday morning feeling where we're kind of like, blah, I don't want to go to work. I don't want to do the thing. I don't want to work on my business. I do not want to do that thing. So this is an amazing one for just kind of giving us a little bit of motivation. And it also gives us the energy, specifically when we're exhausted and feeling worn out. Maybe you're seeing a trend. I felt like this was a good one to follow up on stress and anxiety. So some of you may be in this state right now. And so Hornbeam can help us tackle challenging circumstances and obstacles. So when your day has been difficult or you've experienced a difficult event or a difficult conversation with someone, Hornbeam can be amazing. And Bloodstone is the last essence that I put in this category. And as I mentioned, I kind of wanted to add a gem essence wherever I could, mostly because that's how I use them in custom blends. I always include a gem specifically for that grounding ability. And they just seem to enhance all the frequencies and energies of all the other essences that are in the blend. So to me, that's a super win-win. And so this gem, if you know anything about kind of crystal knowledge and lore, this is traditionally associated with anemia and blood health and just getting good circulation. So a lot of times crystal essences in particular, crystal and gem essences, their traditional uses are often how we might use them as vibrational essences as well. And so a lot of the research is still coming out about this, mostly because this is such a, kind of fringe type of holistic therapy, even though it has centuries of practice behind it. And so Bloodstone as an essence helps stimulate our energy, gives us strength, circulation, and overall vitality. And it helps us balance the mental and physical exertion. So if you're a very mental type person who's thinking all the time and you're more like doing all the things in your mind, but physically not doing the same, or you're very much out of body, you're very ungrounded, Bloodstone can be great for really kind of anchoring us. It also has the added benefit of helping people feel more self-sufficient. And so I am going to, oops. Well, before we talk about confidence and self-esteem, I'm going to share the frequencies of that one with you. I must have taken the slide out that had the frequency healing in it, but we're going to activate this one, same as we did before. It really doesn't matter how many times you hit it, but I like to give it a good couple knocks, and usually I just count to 11 in my head. So I'm going to share these frequencies with you if you're open to receiving them. It's nice when you get a sprayer that's not behaving. Doing this old school, very old school. As I mentioned, you're welcome to close your eyes and receive the frequencies. I really love confidence and self-esteem essences pretty much all day long, but they're great when you're kind of getting your day started, or you've got a big project coming up, or you have to meet with a client, or you're going out to a networking event and you really don't like to be around people. This can be a great blend for that. So hopefully you can feel the frequencies as they interact with your energy field. Sometimes issues around clearing can also come up. So just keep in mind that if you have kind of any reactions or emotional experiences with this is totally normal. Especially if you're experiencing a plant or a gem for the first time, you can often have stuff come up because it needs to be cleared. So these can be so helpful for that. This is such a nice blend. And so the next kind of category that we're going to talk about is confidence and self-esteem. Of course, that one was for energy. Yeah, that one's for energy. This is an amazing essence. I love this. And actually, this is one of the first Australian bush essences that I used. And so this essence helps enhance self-esteem, self-confidence, and self-love. And you can kind of see that the flowers themselves have these like five, the stamens in them. So they can be really helpful. It's part of the star type of energy signature. So one of the neat things that it does, it will help actually align all of the energy centers. But specifically this one can also help us celebrate our physical appearance and our inner and outer beauty. Aww. And it's ideal for people, ironically, it's ideal for people who prefer to blend in, who avoid attention and stay out of the limelight. So if you're in a type of job, or you want to be in a type of job where you're being seen more, and if you have the dreaded fear of being seen online, and maybe you have a business and you want people to know about you, but you also don't want them to know about you, this is an amazing essence for that fear of being seen. Dog rose is another Australian bush essence, and it's well indicated for people who are shy, who are insecure, who are timid, or maybe just people who are a bit nervous. So it can help us feel comfortable and express ourselves with people. In fact, it would be great before a workshop like this, if you're doing a lot of talking, this is an awesome essence for that. And I love putting together little communication blends too. So this is probably one I would put in a communication blend. And it helps boost self-courage, confidence, self-esteem, and overall vital force. Forage, if you have a garden, maybe you've planted this in the past. It is, I would say, a pretty classic essence. It's a beautiful essence that helps empower us, gives us confidence and courage to do hard things. I picture this as someone like a mom maybe who's preparing for a bake sale and like wearing the cape and doing it all. Because to me that feels like a very hard thing. But it's especially great if you're feeling a bit low or depressed and maybe feeling like you don't have what it takes. Borage is amazing for all of those indications, and it's very strengthening and supportive. So some essences might have more of a release effect, some of them are more of a catalyzing effect, so they're really kind of potent and strong. And so borage is one of those ones that you can pretty much use every day because it has that supportive, nurturing aspect to it. And the last one in our confidence and self-esteem category is red garnet. So I want to include a gem essence. And so this one helps encourage self-love, self-esteem, and accepting ourselves exactly as we are. And you can kind of see from the red color too that it can be really helpful for the root chakra. And so red garnet as a gem traditionally associated with the root chakra, among others. And it can enhance feelings of sensuality and sexuality. That obviously relates to the sacral chakra as well. So sometimes knowing a little bit about the colors that are either in the gem or in the flower can really help us figure out what it might be used for. So even if you knew nothing about the gem or the flower, just by looking at the colors, the shape of the petals, the type of crystal that it is, the colors, can tell us a lot about what the essence might be used for. I'm feeling all of the frequencies having sprayed them in my area. It's a lot of frequencies all at once. So red garnet can help encourage self-compassion and creativity. And so that obviously relates to the sacral chakra piece as well. And so now we're going to receive the frequencies of this combo blend. And as I mentioned, just giving a little bit of a knock helps activate it, activates the frequencies and opens up their consciousness. So I'm going to share, whew, that's lots. I think you guys might need this one. And you're welcome to close your eyes and open up to these frequencies if you're interested in receiving them and experiencing them. Yeah, these ones are really, really so nice. Allows you to kind of stand in your power and really, step out in a way that maybe you haven't before. This might be good if you sometimes feel like a doormat or that people walk all over you, having the confidence to say, like, hey, I want to talk about this topic, or I want to participate in this, and knowing that your voice is important and worth being heard. Hopefully, you guys are feeling some of the effects of these. It's only 4 essences, but man, they definitely can pack a wall up. And so our last category, obviously all of these relate to women's health, but hormone health in particular is quite a complex topic. And your hormones can be too high, your hormones can be too low, your hormones can be just right, but you can still have some issues. So we'll talk about some of the essence that we can use for that. And so we're starting off with our gem essence. And this is moonstone, beautiful moonstone. Great to recharge this in the moon. What a surprise. And it's very interesting just thinking about the moon and its impact on our female cycles. And so that can be one way to remember what this essence is used for, but it's classically a remedy for female hormone and emotional balance, specifically issues around PMS during monthly cycles. And one of the ways that it can be helpful for these aspects of both physical and emotional health is that moonstone essence actually has an impact on the brow chakra. And so this will actually affect melatonin production as well as ovarian function. So this is physically how this essence might have an impact physically to have an impact on the body. And emotionally, it helps remove resistance to the cycles of life. It's all about promoting receptivity. So if you're someone that lives a lot of the time in the masculine energies and you want to move more toward the feminine energies, especially toward receiving and getting comfortable with, being able to accept help or accept gifts or accept help or support, moonstone can be a great one for doing that, because sometimes hormonal issues, especially when we think about them from a metaphysical perspective, hormonal issues really are related to this idea of not being properly supported. I mean, depending on what the issue is, but that's one possible indication for needing this. So there's always something that can be done. Pomegranate, is this not such a cool looking flower? I have to say that I'm pretty obsessed with it. I saw it for the first time actually in Arizona when I was pregnant. And it's pretty cool to think like that's the fruit, the actual pomegranate growing with the flower, and it opens up into this huge, beautiful, luscious flower. And pomegranate is amazing also for some of the physical aspects in the body. And so this can be related to blood flow, circulation, any irregular menstruation or lacking menstruation in a person that should be menstruating. It can help with things like cysts, fibroids, and it can help with issues of yeast and candida. And oftentimes, physical complaints in the body may have an underlying issue around a yeast or another pathogen. So this can be a neat one to have actually some of that detoxifying effect, and just a warning that it can be very strong and very powerful. And I would always add this as part of a custom blend. There's a couple other ones like Australian Bush Essence, Spiniflex, that can be really helpful for dealing with some of those pathogenic aspects. But pomegranate is definitely one to consider for overall women's health. And one of the ways that it does this help is by unblocking the root and the sacral chakras. So those are two big chakras that are used with this particular flower essence. And so another one that I want to mention, a couple of gem essences in this one, is green tourmaline. And this is another example of one that could be in different categories. So this one is obviously in our hormone category, but you could also include it in the energy category, because when we clean up the hormones, we also improve our ability to have energy and to use energy effectively. And so this gem is very helpful and very effective at eliminating some of the emotional and mental toxins that we might have. So some of those kind of emotional outbursts, things like anger, frustration, fear, just a couple examples. And most of these emotional patterns are associated with the liver, the bladder, the kidney, and the gallbladder. So if you have any issues in those areas, sometimes those can be related to those emotional patterns. And so green tourmaline can be very cleansing. It's very detoxifying, much like pomegranate, and it will help release any stuck energy in your system. So if you've got blocked energy and you know there's a specific area where the energy is just not moving effectively, green tourmaline can be great to be added to your blend. And candy stick, how cool is this flower? This is one of Pacific Essence's flowers, and it grows on the Pacific side in Vancouver Island, I believe. Probably Vancouver too, but Vancouver Island specifically. And this is an awesome essence, and we really think about essences just working on the emotional aspects, but this is another one that can actually help work on the physical aspect. And it is associated with some of the emotional issues around that root chakra again. So survival, frustration, life purpose, and self-expression. Isn't it so interesting looking? I'm just like, I'm captivated. It's got this like stripy stem and these kind of strange looking flowers. This is actually what it looks like in bloom. So candy stick essence can be very helpful for addressing any kind of reproductive or sexual trauma. So this includes things like a miscarriage, abortion, traumatic birth, anything around the reproductive area that might have been traumatic. And what's traumatic for you might not have been traumatic for someone, but if it's traumatic to you, this can be a great essence to use. And candy stick essence is also really helpful for dealing with structural trauma, and it releases tension and supports alignment. So there's the specific areas where this might be useful in terms of structural trauma, and these are in the lumbar spine, in the pelvic girdle, and kind of anywhere in that sacral area where things might have been, kind of stuck, or if you're just a very tense person in general, candy stick can be really helpful for addressing the tension that's in that pelvic area, greater pelvic area, including the low back. And she oak, and I want to mention this one because I did not include it in the workshop that I did on fertility and pregnancy and postpartum recently, and so I did want to include it in here. And if you are interested in the other aspects of fertility and pregnancy and then postpartum, I did a whole workshop on that, and that should be on YouTube in the next little while, or if you're on our website, we have a client section, so that'll be included, so you can check that out. I didn't want it to be the focus of this workshop, but I did want to include she oak because it's amazing for hormonal issues of all kinds, and this is another Australian bush essence, and specifically it helps with the emotional blocks around fertility or conception. So this is in cases where there's no known physical cause that would prevent conception, and doctors are mystified, doctors don't know what to do. I feel like every fertility clinic should have this on hand. Well, of course, it would probably affect their business, so maybe they're not going to take my suggestion, but anyone else who's interested in fertility, this is an amazing essence to help resolve that. And at an emotional level, it helps address those hormonal imbalances, and especially if there's any kind of self-doubt or feelings of inadequacy. So this idea of like, well, I'm not even going to be a good mother or a good parent, or will I do a good job, or all those issues that kind of come up in the early stages, preconception and pregnancy. This can be an amazing essence. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend it during pregnancy, but if you're trying to conceive, this could be a good one to add. And then we have walnut, and this is another one that I could have thrown this probably in every category, but it's a classic essence for transitions. It's a classic essence for energy shielding and boundaries. So even during, the times of being in the grocery store during COVID and all the craziness that's going on, I used walnut. Like I could not get enough of it because it was like I put it on and I was basically invisible. So I was opting out of all of the shenanigans and everything else that, we were kind of experiencing. So walnut can be amazing for energetic shielding and protecting, especially if you're an empath. And as a transitional remedy, it's so great for all aspects of aging and all aspects of menopause. And so where that transition is maybe a bit more difficult, or people are experiencing symptoms related to menopause, walnut is an amazing essence to add. And there's so much that happens during that time period, and especially that change of going, having an impact your fertility in that way. Walnut is so helpful to act as an inner compass. So something that gives us strength and stability through this life change and any others that are coming up. And walnut, as I mentioned, is really great for empaths. So it's great for people who are easily influenced or maybe affected by those around them. I would definitely add this one in a blend as well. And so our last one, again, you're welcome. I can't count and talk at the same time. You're more than welcome to close your eyes as I send these frequencies. And again, this is the blend of hormones and another stopper. That's almost always I check these, but for some reason I got another dud. Again, old school. Just open up to receiving these frequencies if you think that one or more of them might benefit you, and your body will only use what it needs. So if there's a frequency in there where you're like, oh, I don't really need that one, I'm not trying to conceive, for example, know that your body's not going to take it up. You're not you're not suddenly well, hopefully you're not looking to conceive, not going to end up pregnant as a result of this workshop. If you do, then I can't be held accountable, but the body is very smart and the body will only take what it needs. So if there are any other frequencies in that blend that you need, you're more than welcome to take them and to allow them to benefit you. And typically when we're using essences, we really aren't using them like as a one-off like this. The typical way of using essences is for a 21-day period. We want to use essences 2 to 4 times a day, a couple drops or a couple sprays a day. And I also want to share one of my favorite ways to use essences, which nobody was talking about. And hopefully after this workshop, you might try it if you use flower essences, but, and I'll use a different one. I'll use a different blend. This one's a grounding blend that I created for the adrenals and the root and protection. So this one has rutile in it, smoky quartz, and black tourmaline, just because you can always use more grounding. So I just spray it twice. I rub my hands together and I just take a huge deep breath. If you want this one too, I'll send this one to you. This is for grounding. It is amazing to take them in kind of topically like that. Not a lot of people are doing that, but Sue Lilly mentions it in her book called The Essence Practitioner. And it's one of my favorite ways because I can feel it hit the energy system immediately. So something to consider if you have any essences at home and you want to try that out. It's a great way to really get the benefit and the impact right away. And so it's just fun to mention that, it's very common to experience physical, emotional, mental sensations or feelings. If you do, that's so cool. That's so awesome. If you don't, that's cool too. Maybe your body didn't need any of these frequencies right now. You're like fully grounded and you're chill and you're, sleeping well and you have lots of energy. And like, boy, do I wish I had some of that. As a mom of a toddler, I do, but only like 2 days a week. So as part of this, you can just witness any changes, any insights, any information that comes out of the blue over the next couple of days. I love to start paying attention to my dreams or any events or coincidences that happen. It can be really fun to just see how these frequencies will interact with our day-to-day life. So whether or not you experience it a lot or a little, it's just really cool to kind of be mindful, because there are, that's 20 frequencies that you've just experienced, and they're at a really high potency. So these are not even potencies that you would typically get in a health food store. These are custom potencies that I make, because that's what I like to do. So I haven't looked at the chat in a while, but we definitely have time for questions. Thank you for saying that I look great in pink. Thank you. Pink's my favorite color. There's definitely going to be a replay for anyone that missed the kind of beginning. And so there's a great question here about how the gems are made. And no, I don't grind them up and put them in the blend. So when we're talking about gem essences, they're exactly like flower essences, where the gem, and depending on the gem, so if it's a toxic gem, meaning it's not safe for consumption, there's different ways to actually keep the gem out of the water directly. And so you might use moonlight or sunlight in that case to capture the frequencies that are in that gem, so they wouldn't be touching. for toxic gems. But for other gems that are safe, you might have the gem in the water for a certain period of time, again, exposed to the sun or exposed to the moon. And that's how the frequencies will actually go from the gem to impart themselves in the water. And water is amazing, right? Because water will hold the frequency of just about anything. And if you've read about Dr. Emoto's work at all, you'll probably have heard this idea. And then that's a really good kind of foundational type of science for understanding how the frequencies get from the object into the actual essence. So there are no physical gems, no physical flowers in these essences. It's purely vibrational, purely frequency based, and usually requires either the sun or the moon to activate it. Most flower essences are made in the sun. Many gem essences are made in the moon. And then we can have even essences that are environmental. So I actually have two essences, one that was made on this very particular waterfall in a place called Freedom Forest. And it's just a lovely, amazing, super cool place just up north in just up north, just north of me. But there's a environmental essence, so we can actually capture frequencies from a place, which is really cool. And then I have another one made from the moon in Pisces. And so this is a really cool story, and I see there are more questions, but I did an environmental essence of the moon in Pisces during the last full moon, which was back in the fall. And just recently, in the last kind of couple weeks or so, I had some strange health issues come up. And I did a scan on myself to see what I needed. And the essence for the full moon in Pisces came up. And I thought, oh, that's interesting, because I don't even quite know what this is for at this point. I haven't experimented with it because it never came up on a scan before. And so I am looking at this essence and I'm pondering, and I was at a friend's house, and he's a naturopath and a homeopath. And he's like, oh, look, it's the new moon in Pisces tonight. So wasn't I surprised? Because of course I had no concept at the time. Usually I'm pretty in tune with the moon cycles, but this particular time, because of the health issues, I was a little bit ungrounded. So it's pretty amazing that the full moon in Pisces actually would be helpful for the new moon in Pisces energy. So just to say that essences are made from all kinds of things, and environmental essences is definitely one of them. Okay, lots of thank yous, lots of thank yous. I'm happy to share book I would recommend to a beginner. So there are a lot of books that I would recommend specifically on materia medica. And so in this case, the materia medica is really just the knowledge base. And that's a term that comes from homeopathy, but another type of energy medicine. But each kind of supplier or product manufacturer has their own, generally they have either a book or they have some workshops or whatnot where they talk about their particular essences. So if you specifically want to know, if you have a set like Bach, for example, and you want to know what the Bach essences are used for, the specific books, I wish I had some on my desk, but I can definitely, when I send out the recording, I'll send a copy of some of my favorites. Actually, I have so many good books for the Bach remedies. But a book that I really love that is not specifically on the essences is this cool one. I'm actually going to take my screen off just so I can show you guys if I can figure out how. Oh, there we go. The button that says stop share would be very helpful. So this is one of my favorite books. It's called Flower Essences, Reordering Our Understanding and Approach to Illness and Health. And it's by Michelle Small-Wright. And I've often talked about some of the things that she mentions in this book. This is a great little one for Bach too. But she specifically talks about how to use essences and how to actually find the essences that would be most helpful for you. So if you want to know about flower essences in general and some of the science behind them, this book is amazing. And then this is a Bach, this is a little handout that you've probably seen maybe at a health food store. This is another great one for Bach remedies. It's the 38 flower remedies. an introduction and guide to flower remedies, and it just has a little kind of short synopsis like this is chicory and chestnut bud. It's really helpful for finding some of the essences that grow locally, or at least in our area. And then rock rose, red chestnut. So that's one that you can kind of find in most regular spots. And let me just see. I might need to share another one that I have here. I'll just grab a few to give you an idea. And I have a new this one. So each one of the, as I said, the Materia Medica. So if David Dalton, for example, has the Stars of the Meadow book, which is really good. So it tells you what each one of the essences can be used for. It's another great Bach book. And one of my favorites is A Scientific Approach to Diagnosis and Treatment. This is quite advanced, and it gives you some really great kind of combination remedies. And so I'm just going to go back to my screen. I don't think I have much. Oh yes, so I have a couple upcoming workshops, one on children's health. We'll be diving into mental health in great detail, and then also intuitive development. So if you actually want to use essences for intuition, that is going to be a really cool, very similar to this, where it's got the workshop component and then also the healing experience. And then here's how to find me. If you found me through Eventbrite, these are some other places that you can find me. And I have a ton of freebies, free guides, free resources, a couple videos, workshops, specifically one for families. And I've got a 101 how to, all the history about flower essences as well. Those are all free on my website. And if you're on social media, you can follow me. I'm mostly on Instagram these days. I like Instagram. I'm on Facebook as well, but Instagram, I don't know, it's a cool app. And one question that nobody asked, but people may, oh, yes, Sylvie did. Thank you, Sylvie. Where do we find these essences? So all the ones that I mentioned are obviously ones that I carry and use, so you can always buy them on my website. The remedies like Bach essences can be found at most health food stores, at least here in Canada. So that's a really kind of cool intro way. And there's some places that, just be mindful, because sometimes the cost is a lot more depending on where you go. But yeah, health food stores are a good place if you're looking for Bach remedies. And I use over 500 different essences. So this is really just a very small snapshot. And I just got a brand new set last month. Yes, last month when I was in Mexico. So I have an entire set of essences just specifically for the Mexican climate, which is so cool because a lot of the hot weather places really have powerful essences. And just even using 2 drops of this essence, I literally took a step back. I was like shocked at the experience. So it really had a profound impact on my energy system. And so I'll be talking more about those in the future once I, have a better idea of the best ways to use them. And I am doing an in-person workshop, which will be in September. So if you're kind of local to this rough area, it's in Markdale, Ontario. We'll be kind of putting up the information about that soon, but that's on mental health and stress and anxiety. And we had talked about doing one on actually making the flower essences, but I haven't done that yet. I would definitely like to do that in the future if there's interest in it. So if you are interested in that, feel free to send me an email so I know kind of if people are actually interested in that. And yes, so for flowers that are toxic, so you mentioned yew essence, and if the person has prepared it, professionally, they won't have included the flowers that are toxic in the actual water. So they'll do the same thing where the flowers will be in a glass container in the water or next to the water where the flowers are not having direct contact with the water. That's really important. Poison hemlock is another very dangerous. As any flower can be dangerous, but potentially toxic is a better way to think of them. I never think of plants as being dangerous, but it's the poison is in the dose, right? So in cases where the flower is potentially toxic, the flower generally does not come into contact if it does, and I know Pacific Essence has the poison hemlock, and so she's diluted it to a certain percentage where it no longer has the same impact. So the same way that you might prepare a homeopathic remedy, for example. So I think she's diluted it to 6C, which then it has none of the physical aspects of it. But most flower manufacturers, people would not have the flowers come into direct contact with the water. That's a really good point. I'm so glad that that so many people enjoyed this. This is the kind of stuff that I love talking about, and I am very happy Danielle's going to come to our in-person workshop. Now it's on the recording, you can't get out of it. But anyone else who's interested, there's definitely opportunities to meet in person, and this is the kind of stuff I love, and especially during the warm weather. I love to be out and actually engaging with the plants. Love to do plant attunements, which is a great way of actually experiencing the flower and seeing what kind of messages and intuitive guidance comes to us. So there are so many different ways to work with these plants, both from just receiving their medicine and also experiencing it for ourselves through the way of essences. And yeah, I would totally consider traveling. I would travel to Ottawa. But I would also definitely do a how to make flower essences, especially now that the weather is starting to pick up a little bit here, because we've still got a pretty hefty layer of snow on the ground. But I would definitely do a flower essence making class. So if you're interested in that, again, send me an email just so I know how much interest there is. Because sometimes I put these workshops together and then I don't know whether or not it's actually a topic that someone might be interested in. So if you are interested, just you'll get the recording probably tomorrow. So just feel free to reply and say, I'm interested in the how to make flower essences one, or whatever topic you might be interested in, because I can pretty much do a workshop on anything. And I really love this stuff because the best part is that they really can be used with people of all ages. So from the very young to the young at heart, there are so many ways to actually use this on a regular basis, and we don't have to be worried about contraindications. We don't have to be worried about the physical matter being an issue for people. It's really just the frequency and the vibrational aspect, so people are going to experience what they need to through that. So I think we're just over time, but if you have other questions, you can always send me an email too, and maybe they'll be the subject or topic of a future workshop. I appreciate everyone for coming live. It's always so exciting to be able to present when people are here with us. And hopefully I've answered any questions that came up. And I'm looking forward to, if anyone's interested in the children's health or the mental health, those ones are coming up in the next 2 months or so. And hopefully you found this useful and interesting. And hopefully I'll see you again on another workshop. And that is all from me. Thanks, everyone. Thanks. Thanks, ladies.